Hello, my name is Craig Rainey, and I've been in the construction industry for more than 40 years. When homeowners tell me the story of their project, oftentimes it sounds like this. It doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, wise guy, eh?
And most builders would say that. Welcome to Remodeling Wisdom. I'm Craig Rainey. Let's get started. Have you ever had somebody tell you that, man, I moved into this house and it was a lemon. I've had so many things go wrong with it. Have you ever heard somebody talk about the cracks in their walls that appeared not long after they bought the house? Have you ever had somebody, like I talked to the other day, say, oh, yeah, we bought this, it's an A-B type situation where we bought one half of the building, they bought the other half of the building, and then they overbuilt and took my square footage and blah, 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 blah. Well, the name of this episode is New Home Pitfalls. Simple is better. Now, I'm going to cover a few of the things that if you're looking at buying a new home or you have recently purchased a new home, that you may be facing or you may suspect you may be facing. So I think I'm going to have some valuable information, and I invite y'all to stick around. Before we get into that, I'd like to encourage you to either hit the like button or the follow button, depending on which platform you're on. They vary. But either way, just get some idea when the next episode comes out. In case you're a fan and you're finding beneficial information here, you'll know as soon as it comes out. And remember, when you hit the like button, it's fun. It's easy, and I do it all the time. I'll wait for you. Go ahead. There you go. I knew you could. I appreciate you. Anyway, so if you want to contact me directly, I made myself laugh. If you want to contact me directly, the best way is to email me at craig@craigrainey.com. If you are so disposed that you want to cyberstalk me, that's fine. I'm everywhere. My website is craigrainey.com. If you're more a fan of the written word as opposed to the spoken word, then I do have a online remodeling magazine called Remodeling Wisdom Advice from the Expert, and that is either at texasbuilderblog.com or craigsbuilderblog.com. Both of them will get you there. But anyway, I try to keep things posted pretty regularly. Tend to get a little caught up in my other writings. If you know anything about me, I've got a lot of that going on, but I try to update that as much as I can. But I was inspired to do an episode on new homes, not to give advice for those of you who are trying to buy a new home, although there's going to be some of that in there. It has more to do with where you are right now and the reason you are there. If you've purchased a new home and you found some things that you're having to repair. The reason I say that simple is better is in the case of buying a new home. You really, if there are any red flags, I would recommend you avoid that home at any cost. I obviously in this industry, I hear a lot of horror stories about it. I've got a friend of mine who's a real estate guy, and he bought this house in the Houston area, and it turns out because he jumped into it. The market was great. It looked good. And I mean, just the numbers worked, the math worked. He went into it, and it turned out that he had probably $200,000 worth of remodeling work if he was going to resell this house, and he bought it. And the people that he bought it from, I'm sure had champagne because they got rid of a real, just a problem. And so this friend of mine, he got into it, and he says, man, what's it going to cost? I looked at it, and I said, oh, brother, you're not going to like this. This is a lot. And he goes, well, I kind of suspected there was that, but it was such a great deal. I had another client that purchased a house, and it was beautiful. Walked in, and then within a month or two, they started seeing cracks in the corners, in the wall corners, and the corners between the ceiling and the walls, and some just jagged right in the center of it. And I looked at the house because they had me come over, and I looked at it and I said, man, this is a pretty wispy paint job they've got here. And you can see right here where this wall used to be blue. And because what the owner told me, I said, well, it looks like that when they painted this wall, they got a little blue on the wall or something like that. I said, no, it was originally a blue wall. They didn't put any primer on it. They didn't kills it before they painted it white. So the blue is bleeding through. And, that's a small thing, but that's one of the things you have to deal with. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm saying this about keeping it simple and simple is best is I go on tirades here sometimes about how insidious the remodeling and construction industry can be. And if you can avoid exposing yourself to the necessity, the need to remodel your home, buy one that's already got what you want in it, that's already updated, that's done the things that they've done the things that you need done so you're happy in this home. You need to do that. If you go to a house and said, well, it's got good bones, but it's kind of a fixer-upper. Well, if you don't have a vast construction experience and you don't have crews and you don't, and if God forbid you're new to the area, so you don't know any trades and you don't know any of the building supply places, you are about to get on a mission that's going to be tough. It is going to challenge you and test you. And so, you want to do that. There are some other things that you need to look for. And let's get to that, but I want to talk about this. Everybody that goes to buy a home, they go through a process, and this process is the same no matter where you are. You have an options period where you have an inspector come out, they look it over, and then, you make sure that, whatever you want to do, it could be, the option. And I'm not a realtor, but some of those things might be that, well, I got to sell my house before I buy this, or I've got to do this, I've got to do that, contingent on this, or, I want to make sure it's working. I want to make sure that, whatever it may be, that's what the option period is for, to make sure you do your due diligence. Well, most of your real estate inspectors are not construction experts. When I bought my home, when I bought my home, it was ironic. The real estate inspector was a former prospect of mine. I gave them a bid. They were realtors and they were flipping houses. And so they were interviewing me to remodel their house so they could flip it. And I went through the house and talked to them, and I remember the process and the visits, and I went through it. And my impression of this real estate inspector, pardon me, it's first thing in the morning, little coffee right now. But the thing about this real estate inspector is that I remembered him as not having very much construction experience. But he was here inspecting my house with the swagger of an expert, and I was just, this guy, when I was talking to him, he and his wife were flippers or realtors and everything. They didn't seem to really know much about construction at all. That's why they were going out hiring, interviewing general contractors to do this flip. And I went, okay. So anyway, he went through and he found the things that I expected he would find. The sprinkler system on our house, which we did by the house, our sprinkler system, the sensor, the rain sensor, which makes sure that the sprinklers don't come on if it's raining, it didn't function. There were some places in the attic where he found some droppings, said you could have vermin or rats or squirrels. It turned out it was a squirrel. There were some things that had to be done. I noticed a couple things in the house because when I walked through it, I am a construction expert, so I saw some things and I went, see, for me, it's not a big deal because I'm already in the construction industry and I feel that criteria I talked about. I already have crews. I'm in the area. I know what I'm doing. It's not a big deal. And for me, I'm going to oversee the job. A lot of it I'll do myself because I'm a hands-on guy. I've got tools and experience and the ability, so I can do it. But your typical homeowner is not that. Your typical homeowner, attorney, doctor, IT professional, whatever it may be, even a plumber. Your plumber is not a construction expert. They know plumbing, but if you're one of those people that don't absolutely love to be tortured, then you want to make sure that the house that you purchase has everything that you want. And when we move into a house, we like to nest, and a lot of that is, we like to, operate a paint roller and change some colors. That's fine. But, when you walk into a house, new paint is a giveaway that there is probably structural or foundation problems with it. I looked at one yesterday, as a matter of fact, and this couple bought the house maybe 6 months before. Brand new paint job, they took an old house built in 77 and they kind of postmodern, I don't know. It's a very open concept. I saw the direction they were going. They were trying to make this thing look like it came out of a magazine, and they kind of got it done. But there were giant cracks on on the center wall. There were giant cracks between the ceiling and the protruding beams in the wall, and it was throughout the expanse of this wall. And so they asked me about it. I said, well, this is a foundation issue. They said, we just had a foundation company out here, and they fixed it all. And they said, it's fine. I said, well, what do you think is causing it if it's not the foundation? Well, I mean, we thought settling. I said, that's foundation. And I said, you may believe me, this is a foundation issue. And I'm not a foundation expert, but I do know a little bit about it. And I said, well, do they give you a warranty on the foundation work they did? And they said, yeah, they did. So I said, well, I would call this company back out, and I asked them who it was. It's a reputable company. Foundation, I find foundation repair to be a bit subjective and a little bit unpredictable. So, there are a lot of moving parts in that. There are a lot of things that will affect a foundation. So, good luck with them on that. A lot of stuff I find is not quite so bad. I find, bad repairs in the wall. I find, like in my house when I bought it, I didn't see down the hallway. I noticed, but on the second floor, floor decking, it's I'm sure they used a tongue and groove 3/4 inch plywood or whatever it may be back in 2000 when it was built. But they obviously didn't glue and screw that subfloor. It looks to me like what they did is they just went through and they used a ring shank nail and just used a nail gun and shot it down and went on, but built walls on it. And so I've got little corners of plywood in my hallway that stick up that if I'm barefooted and the lights are off, I could trip on. So I've shot a few of those down with my screw gun, and it's carpeted, so I'm able to get that screw all the way through the carpet, through the nap and everything else down into where you can't see the screw head. But it's really the older the house gets, the more it's gonna show these things. So, but again, when I bought my house from the construction point of view, my real estate inspector, he was not a construction expert, so he missed a lot of stuff, and he just didn't know to look for it. And most of your real estate inspectors do not have much of a construction expertise or background. A lot of them are realtors, and so you have somebody that's just inspecting for basically aesthetic things. And my favorite term is, it's got great bones. Well, there's not a realtor or a real estate inspector that can tell you that and know what they're talking about, because they don't know the structure of the house. I looked at a house not long ago, and they said, oh man, it's got great bones and it needs a lot of work. It's got great bones. And I looked at it and I said, and I told about where the realtor and I were up on the second floor, and we were bouncing like on a trampoline because they used undersized floor joists. And I said, this is the farthest thing from good bones of anything I've seen in a long time. It's a very fascinating and interesting looking house, and I like a lot about it, but it is not well built, and we walked away from it. And I'm in the construction business, but the thing that you want to keep in mind always is if there's any issue, anything that looks like it's going to be an issue, turn and walk out the door and don't come back. You don't want to do this. You don't want to have to become the construction person. You're not going to want to have to, oh man, I got to remodel this thing. You don't want to become an attorney because there's a problem with, like this couple I talked to that bought, they refer to it as an AB. So basically they bought one side of the house, and somebody else, a stranger, bought the other side of the house. This stranger turned their porch into a heated area, so they took so much square footage that the massing on the property would not allow them to do any additions or changes on their house. So, they're kind of up the creek on that thing. So, and you don't want to, and you're going to have to be an attorney to handle something like that. So you don't want to be a construction expert. You don't want to have to become an attorney. You don't want to have to go through all this stuff. If there's any red flags, walk away, go somewhere else. It's not worth it, because to remodel your home it's an anguishing process. It is tough. And, nowadays in this industry, you don't want to get involved with that unless you absolutely have to. So that's one thing. The biggest one I run into, and this happened, this happens 20 times a year for me, at least. I don't do every job I look at. A lot of times I reject them, or they reject me, whatever it may be. But I see a lot of where these folks are wanting to do something on their house, but it turns out that there's been work done on their house without a permit. So when they go to pull the permit. I'll give you an example. And this is one of my clients. So we're doing a room addition for him. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath addition that we're adding to the house. And so when we went to pull the permits on it, my permit expediter informed me that there were 2 open permits from several years ago before the owner bought the house that came with the house that they're going to need to be completed, satisfied, whatever it is, and then inspected and then closed. And I said, okay, well, and it happens a lot, a ton. So what I typically do is I say, well, we're just going to absorb those permit projects into our scope of work as a change, and we'll just go through that, and the owner will pay for whatever needs to be done. And so we said we'd do that. Well, that was some time ago, and we are now dried in, and we got the windows and doors in. We're electrical, plumbing, HVAC, everything is done. And so we had an inspector come out. The inspector said, well, we can't inspect this thing. We need to inspect it with everything. And so I said, well, what else do we need? He says, well, we need an HVAC inspection on this. I said, well, what we've done is we've just pulled vents from the main unit out to this addition, and that's not an inspectable event. And he goes, no, it's not. He says, but you have an HVAC permit that's been open for about 8 years now. And I went, really? He said, yeah. I said, so that's one of those permits they were talking about. He goes, oh, yeah. So anyway, it's an HVAC permit, so I got my AC guy to go out there and look at it, and it's a big fix. It was something that apparently an HVAC contractor came in, they opened the permit, they started running new ducts, and they put a new unit in, they did some other, and they never finished it. So we're right now finishing up that HVAC, but that's a big expense for this homeowner who's already got the expense of doing a remodel because they thought, well, we're happy with it. We want to change our space and modify it, and we're we're gonna have 2 new bedrooms and mother-in-law suite, all this stuff. And now they go on top of it. We got to throw another. It's probably going to be another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 into HVAC repairs. It should have been done. That was not detected when they bought the home. And so another one I had is we were doing basically a facelift on this house, and it was one where we were redoing carpet and cabinets and countertops, and we repainted and this kind of thing, some flooring, and that's what we were doing. Well, one of my tradesmen had one of those old Ford trucks, and this house had a driveway that went right up to basically the garage had been converted to living space. So he was parked in front of I guess it was a bedroom laundry room combination there. Anyway, he put it in park, and it didn't stay there. It drove right through the front wall. So he was insured, so that's fine. I mean, in fact the owner made money on this thing. But when we went to pull the permit, because now we have to pull a permit for framing, and because we're going to have to build this thing, so we had to pull the permit. And when we went to pull the permit on it, the city said, well, you can't, because you always turn a survey in with your current survey in with your permit. He says, well, you can't build on this. You're going to have to demo out that room addition that used to be a garage. And it turns out it wasn't even a garage. It was a carport. What they did is they took a carport and a laundry room that was attached to the house, and somebody, the homeowner years ago, just built an addition on it. And so it wasn't even a foundation that would support weight, but they had walls sitting on it. It was just a carport with a driveway. So we had to completely demo out that room addition, demo out the carport and the driveway, and then pour a foundation and everything else. So it was a big expense. And this is something the owner had just bought the house. I mean, he bought it, he wanted to remodel it and get it up, and then they were going to move in. So it delayed us, and it cost quite a bit of money. Luckily, I was able to, and that's one of the things, if you ever have a claim with an insurance company, make sure you get a builder that you trust to get involved, because I think the initial claim on that was they were going to give them something like $35,000, and we got it up to about close to $80,000. And because what we told them to say, look, this thing is, we're going to have to demo the whole thing. It's not made to code. So the insurance company, they agreed, and we did that. But these are the things that can happen to you. How do you solve this problem? How do you make yourself safe from these pitfalls? The first thing is, if you see any red flag at all, and if it's a pink flag, it's not even completely red, turn and walk away. You don't want to inherit somebody else's problem. The second thing, it's good to have that real estate inspection. It must be done. It's part of what you do. But I would recommend that you have a construction expert look at the structural and construction components of your home and make sure that it truly does have good bones. If you don't have a builder that you trust, and believe me, builders are dicey. There's a lot of builders have no experience in the construction industry. They own a company and they rely on their trades to make decisions for them to run their project. You don't necessarily want that. But if you know somebody who bona fide knows what they're talking about, somebody who is an expert, you can get that person involved in this thing. I recommend their inspection companies. Typically, they're engineers that can come in and they can look at the construction of your home and they can tell you these things. And that's something that I would recommend. It could cost between $500 and $1,500 depending on where it is. A lot of times that's what stops people from doing it. They go, man, this cost me money. And hopefully my real estate inspector is pretty good. I'll ask him a few questions about the attic and maybe he'll know. It's not going to happen. They don't know what to look for. And that's the paid portion of it. This is the free part. This is the something that you can do at no charge. It might cost you $15 at the courthouse, but this is what you can do. Look up old permits. You can just call the city. Call the city permit department, whether it's the Economic Development Corporation there or whomever is doing that. Call that authority and say, hey, are there any open permits on this address? And they'll tell you. A lot of times you can get online and you can Google it, or check on the city webpage. But for me, I'm an old guy, I just call. But that, and the other thing is go to the county office and get a copy of the official survey on that house, the last survey that was filed with the courthouse. And what you'll find, pardon me, what you'll find is either the footprint of that house is going to be like it is right now. In other words, there's not going to be a room addition that wasn't there before. So if you look at that old survey and you see that there's no room addition on it, but the house you're buying has a room addition, there's going to be a problem. Now, either let's say you decide, yes, I want to remodel or renovate my house, and you pull a permit, they're going to make you demo whatever's over there, or they're going to make you bring it up to code because they're not going to grandfather this. The other thing you're going to do is, let's say you go to sell the house later and somebody actually does do their due diligence. You won't sell that house. That's something that once it's on the radar of the city that unpermitted structural or construction work has been done on this house, they got the bullseye on you. They're gonna red tag your house. They're gonna say, look, you can't do a thing with this till you fix this. And that's the pitfall. So again, you don't want to go into that. You don't want to go into that zone. You don't want to be that guy or that gal. You don't want to go in there and do that. It's so tough. I talk to people all the time that go through this. This homeowner I'm doing this room addition for right now, he is just beside himself because the other permit, by the way, is the roof. They pulled a roofing permit, never closed it, and I was looking at it. We've got some roof work to do. And it's going to cost him more money for that because obviously that's not my original scope of work. So this is something that they were really happy about doing this room addition. It was going to have room, and now it's turning into a nightmare for them. And they bought this house 2 years ago, and I feel so bad for them. I really do. I'm watching this play out, and I'm getting the people on the job. I'm getting we're remedying it, but they just feel very betrayed, and it is the industry. It is what it is. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. If you have some more questions or you have something that has come up that I haven't covered here, I'm more than happy to address that with you. But really be hypersensitive about any red flags when you're looking at a new home. If somebody says it's got good bones, walk away. I mean, unless, and everybody, by the way, there's no unless. Everybody knows what their house is worth. The days of the little old lady driving her Buick to church and back, and it's, a beautiful car and it's only got 200 miles on it. She's selling it for $200. Those days aren't there anymore. Everybody knows what their house is worth. Everybody knows what their real estate is worth. Nobody's just giving it away. You're going to pay full list price on this thing. So there's no point in saying, oh, well, it's got good bones. I could throw some money at this and I can get my money back in the future. Well, there are too many variables on that. If you're not in the construction business or you're not a real estate flipper, you don't want to mess with those things. And by the way, on the subject of real estate flippers, I have seen more of them fail and go bankrupt. I've got one right now that he's a good friend of mine, and he said, look, I just got to go bankrupt. I can't do anything. He bought this house. He didn't do his due diligence. He didn't have me or anyone else look at it. He said, man, it's just such a great deal, and the market's killing it, and blah, 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 blah. So he's in this house, and he asked me, he said, Craig, come look at this thing and tell me. He said, I've got these these issues that are coming up, and people are pointing it out. What do you think? And I walked through the house and I looked at it, and I said, brother, you got nearly $200,000 worth of renovation to do in this house before anybody's going to buy it. And which begs the question, why did you buy it? And he was looking at the dollars. He said, well, the math worked. I said, well, it doesn't work anymore, unfortunately. So this poor guy, what he's doing is he's abandoning the house. He doesn't live in it. It's an investment property. He doesn't have the money to fix it. And, he has the money to fix it. But if he does fix it, he's not going to be able to sell it, get his money back. So he's going to lose. So and I'm not advocating for what he decided to do, but that's what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, don't put yourself in that situation. There are too many houses out there. The one I'm living in, we looked for 2.5 years before we found this one. And this one was the right one. I looked at the other ones we looked at. It wasn't even the one that we should have been in. There's certain providence to buying a home, I think. And then a lot of times the home will choose you. And so just be careful. Don't do anything where you have to become an attorney or a construction expert to make it work. You don't want to go through that process. I don't want to go through that process. So anyway, really appreciate your time, and I hope that this has been beneficial for you. I want you to have a great day, because I'm going to have a great day. It's Friday, weekend's coming up. Mama's flying back into town. We're going to grab something to eat and spend the weekend. Anyway, y'all take care.